So, a couple of disclaimers before we begin this review. One, I'm going to be calling this weapon a rapier. I know that's not how it's really pronounced. I'm just not going to risk offending the robot that controls my paycheck by using the proper pronunciation. And two, what was that other thing? Oh yeah, I hate this episode with every miserable fiber of my being!
Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate.
Welcome to the second half of High Guardian Spice. This is where things start to get really bad. Episodes 1 through 5 were mere child's play. Now we're in the major leagues. All of the terrible writing, the awkward dialogue, the stupid moments, bad characters, they do not compare to what we'll be facing in the back 7 episodes of High Guardian Spice. Don't get me wrong, all that stuff is still here. Stupid moments, awkward dialogue.
Nothing. Clams are bad. Don't look at me.
Bad animation, but it's all about to get significantly less funny. Let's start with the plot. Episode 6 introduces us to Aster. He's the new student to High Guardian Academy, which doesn't make sense on the face of it. Previous episodes implied that students needed to be accepted to High Guardian Academy. You know, everyone travels to it, they wear uniforms, it's clearly not a public magic school. And there's also this.
Guardianship is something special. But what is it exactly?
If you knew, you wouldn't be here.
Aster being accepted to High Guardian Academy late would be odd and confusing if it wasn't already odd and confusing that he was here to begin with.
What's a rune?
In the last review, I said that the minor characters were more popular than the main characters in High Guardian Spice. Aster is the exception because no one likes Aster. He's an airhead, dumb blonde, himbo. The entire episode is about him macho posturing to Rosemary. He shows up like a wet fart, and then after the intro, the first thing he's doing is trying to mansplain Rosemary's own sword to her. Then the rest of the episode is him constantly failing. His own natural sense of direction gets him to crash into a wall. He can't remember Rosemary's name ever.
Oh hey, Rhubarb. Rhubarb?
You're welcome, Rhubarb.
Listen, Rhubarb.
Rhubarb's like really good at this stuff.
He keeps falling off the trapeze, and literally can't do a damn thing for himself. At the same time, every single line of dialogue is him either gloating or bragging about how amazing he is.
I wish my house were bigger, honestly, because my parents had to start putting my trophies in the barn. Ugh, so embarrassing.
If you think this gets annoying quickly, you're wrong. It gets annoying immediately. The only person in any universe who likes Aster is Rosemary, because this is the crush episode. And how do I even want to describe this? Last time on All of Our Lives, we saw Rosemary get a crush on the new boy in school, Aster. This made Sage jealous because she secretly had a crush on Rosemary the whole time. To make matters even more complicated, she was partnered with Snapdragon, who had developed a crush on her. And it gets even better if you'll believe it. Snapdragon puts on a mermaid costume in a later episode, and that does something for Sage. Let me ask you a question. Do you like pitiful, pointless high school drama? The bare basic plot of this episode is the most miserable love square that I've ever seen. Because this entire episode is miserable and bitter, so it actually has a thesis.
There is only one surefire way to get over a crush. Spend time with them.
So we have Rosemary pairing with her new crush, and they end up pairing Snapdragon and Sage together, and everyone makes each other fucking miserable. Aster is a sexist dipshit pig and is constantly making a fool of himself in front of Rosemary. Meanwhile, Sage is being a bitter sexist dipshit pig, going on and on and on and fucking on about how bad a match Aster is for Rosemary. Look, there's no beating around the bush. This episode is sexist. Misandrist. Yeah, I know. I wouldn't be claiming it unless I was absolutely certain.
I don't believe that guys are all awful. I mean, Hackberry Trout was okie, but he never tried to explain magic to me.
This is an episode where a character literally pulls in, "I'm not sexist, but..." And Sage, she is a very, very sexist character. The shit that she says in this episode, my god.
You wouldn't get this. You're a guy.
No, wait. It gets better.
Guy friendship is different. It isn't the same. Guys don't talk about their feelings.
I don't know if this is professional or not to say, but I do find this, legitimately grossly offensive. To be as fair as I can, no, I don't know what a girl friendship is like. It might be different than guy friendship. It might be similar. It also might not be something that you could just sum up with one blanket stereotypical statement, like saying that guys don't talk about their feelings. I mean, maybe I'm not the best person to be talking about this. Technically speaking, it's my job to talk about my feelings, like how much I want to stab Sage with her own spear. I mean, the most obvious thing to say to this is, yes, I'm a guy and I do talk about my feelings. I've talked about how I felt from everything to the death of my mother to getting quote-unquote canceled, cutting old toxic friends out of my life. Not always publicly, but to my friends, some of which were even guy friends, believe it or not. But I can sum up my problem with this really simply. I stated that I felt offended by what Sage said, and I can guarantee it's going to be a common sentiment that I'm going to get, oh boo-hoo, grow up, can't handle a little sexism in your direction. Sage, there's a reason that guys don't talk about their feelings, and it comes down to people like you. So, the obvious point in the episode's defense is that Snapdragon gets clearly upset and tells Sage off, and Snapdragon is a guy, right? Well,
Snapdragon, it can be painful to let go of the identity others expect you to manifest.
After the show ended, the creators went on record to say that Snapdragon was meant to be trans. Snapdragon is even voiced by a trans woman. This comes into focus in episode 11, which is a discussion and a half in itself. Needless to say, I don't think that they conveyed this very well. For starters, Snapdragon never actually comes out. Caraway implies that it'll give Snapdragon the sex change potion, that as far as been conveyed is both temporary and has no negative side effects. And even in that circumstance, Snapdragon still says no. So the dilemma I have here is that it's the author's word versus the character's word. Let's talk about how that plays with this moment in particular. So, if Snapdragon is cis, what happens here is that Sage is going on a sexist rant, which offends Snapdragon to the point that they step up and put a stop to it. However, if Snapdragon is trans, this is the first sign in the series that they are trans.
Girls and guys and guys and girls and girls and... I'm sick of you talking like that. I'm sick of a lot right now.
Sage is going on and on and on about how girl friendship is different than guy friendship, and Snapdragon must be feeling, that's not how my friendships are, which in the end communicates that what Sage is saying is accurate, and the only reason that Snapdragon has a problem with it is because they aren't a he. For simplicity's sake, I'll be using they-them pronouns for Snapdragon from here on out. Which reminds me, episode 6 is where the show's queerbaiting becomes very apparent. So Sage is going on and on about Wickerman bullshit, and it's painfully clear that she's jealous of Aster. Maybe Sage was right that I don't get girl friendships, because, this looks more than just platonic.
Miss you, love you.
In episode 6, when Sage is separated from Rosemary, she's just going on and on about Rosemary. In episode 5, when Rosemary is separated from Sage, she's just going on and on about Sage. However, when Sage gets directly asked if she has a crush on Rosemary in episode 10, Sage says no. Sage and Rosemary are written as a couple except in the scenes where they are established not to be, at least on Sage's side. On Rosemary's side, this is the only episode she shows any romantic interest of any kind. In fact, after this episode, Rosemary starts to blow off Sage and become the exact kind of friend that Sage deserves. I want to be charitable and say that this isn't a big deal. After all, plenty of media has heterosexual couples that has this will they won't they bullshit. Here's the problem. High Guardian Spice had 12 episodes to say that Snapdragon was trans. In the opportunity to affirmatively state that Snapdragon was trans, they said no. They had 12 episodes to say that at least Sage had a crush on Rosemary, and the opportunity to say that she did, she said no. One of these I can excuse as being rushed or underdeveloped or even, that's relationships. You did it twice, you're queerbaiting. This episode also shows how toxic Sage is as a friend. The kind of jealousy that Sage has isn't normal. It's not just grumbling that Rosemary is spending time with someone else. It strikes me as, what's that word? Entitled. Maybe I was wrong. Aster didn't actually have all of the male stereotypes. Because Sage really has that stereotypical male entitlement pinned down. She goes on like she fucking owns Rosemary. It's disgusting. And things just work out for Sage in the end, after going on and on and on and on about
girls and guys and guys and girls.
At the end, Sage and Snapdragon are friends again. Why? Because Rosemary got fed up with Aster's shit. Okay, I guess that makes the past 10 minutes not exist. It also really doesn't help this episode's toxicity that Aster is the most masculine character in the entire show. The only exception with that might be Snapdragon's father. And considering what we just talked about, that doesn't help matters either. This is another one of those critiques that I've been trying to avoid because it tends to be the first thing that toxic internet shitheads pull out of their ass. But it really does feel like this particular episode has a problem with men and masculinity in general. I don't think that it was intended to be that way. I don't think the show is competent enough to be intentionally hateful. But goddamn, do they make a shit male character. So in this episode, they finally give a name to Professor Hawkhorn, the battle tactics teacher, and they prove that he is just as competent as everyone else at High Guardian Academy. Literally the first thing he does is rob a student. No, I'm not kidding. Snapdragon is using their father's axe.
This is your father's weapon?
It is.
And then Hawkhorn has some words of wisdom for Snapdragon.
There are times when the
Sir,
weapon one inherits
sir,
is
that's not your property.
inherently
You can't just give it away to someone else. And he ends up giving Snapdragon a rapier because I guess he wants the kid to die. While you can use this weapon for combat, I personally wouldn't recommend it. Rapiers are generally regarded as fencing weapons because, well, they're not very good as combat weapons. Wikipedia says that they were used for fashion and as a sidearm, as in not the weapon you initially chose to use. And yes, it also says self-defense, but like, I don't know if it's gonna do you good against a dragon. Not to mention, Snapdragon's particular weapon is thinner than ones typically used in combat. They're used as fencing weapons because they're generally less lethal than like a broadsword. I don't know if it's the wrongest choice for a weapon, but you could go with a spear, a naginata, a dagger, any short blade really. If you wanted to go with the same idea, I'd go with a saber. A saber has the elegance of a rapier, but it actually has, a point. Time shows that ranged weapons are also an option, so a crossbow would also be perfect. Once again, I assume the point is to teach these students to not die, but I'm starting to reconsider that because every little thing seems to be inching everyone closer to an untimely end. Hawkhorn has a great way of pairing students, by the way.
Everyone get in a circle, stand next to your preferred partner. Look directly across from you. You're looking at your partner for today's obstacle course.
You do know that from the opposite of a circle, it's hard to figure out who directly is your opposite, right? If you're facing just a little bit off, two people are gonna think that they've got the same partner. Seriously, what do they teach you guys at that school?
I'm trying to learn to use my compass.
It points north. That is literally all it does. It's also a terrible tool to use to try and solve a maze. So everyone is trying to get to the north of the maze. But here's the thing about a maze. It has passages that go back and forth and double back. I could show you the problem with the diagram. Here's a quote-unquote maze that is just one path, a labyrinth. If you exclusively go north and never try to go south, you will never exit this maze. Speaking of which, it's daytime. The sun is out. It rises in the east and sets in the west. You're more guaranteed to have that than a compass.
I don't get why you'd use magic in here. Kind of defeats the obstacle part of the obstacle course.
Okay, time. We have to do this again. You know the drill by now. Front and center. Closer. Yes, I am actually upset with you this time. Closer. Defeating the obstacle part of the obstacle course is the fucking point of an obstacle course, you moron! None of these trials matter, by the way.
Shouldn't we be tied for first place?
I started tracking scores at the beginning of class, and it looks like you hammered through the most dummies.
Yeah, I was keeping score before the game even begun, so go eat shit.
Couldn't you dock me a few points for, I don't know.
No. Not unless you cause grievous bodily harm to someone.
You sick, sick man. I don't know if the actor's got like shit direction, but the way that he said that, he clearly wants Parsley to hurt someone.
I don't think it's worth it. Just for this trophy!
He is actively encouraging her to do it. So Parsley does end up hurting someone, Aster is being a sexist jerk at the end, and she sends her hammer down. But when Hawkhorn is saying this, Aster is nowhere to be seen. He's still in the maze. Not that that would make what Hawkhorn said okay, but the way that this is portrayed makes it seem like Hawkhorn wants Parsley to hurt someone for his own sick amusement. Yeah, Parsley, I know you wanted Parnell to win, but because I was keeping score before you even know the game was being played, he didn't win. But I could reconsider if, ended up hurting someone else. What the fuck is with this academy? What is with these teachers? I know everyone else has asked this, but I really have to. Are the teachers intentionally meant to be psychotic? Or is it just a combination of bad writing and acting?
And it's nice to see your hair.
Stop.
Why did that sound like a threat? This episode is bottom of the barrel. It's definitely bottom 3. But unlike episodes 3 and spoilers episode 11, this, if you'll believe it, actually has a saving grace. This is where the minor characters really start putting in an effort. Regardless of the reason, Snapdragon telling off Sage is satisfying as all hell. It's only let down by them being friends again at the end. Of course, when Amaryllis gets the battle axe, she becomes a murderous little gremlin, which is actively funny to watch.
I feel alive!
She has a habit of being mean to everyone and treating them like idiots. But here's the thing, everyone else is an idiot. And our banter is legitimately entertaining.
I'd rather eat rocks than listen to my mother go on about her affairs.
Wait, do you mean affairs like...
She's a lush who never met a deckhand she didn't deck with her hands.
This joke is a little long-winded and it gets very confusing at the end, but I'll tell ya, it's really something coming out of this Nick Jr. ass show.
Wait, did you mean affairs like...
Yeah, I meant the other thing.
Oh.
Then there's Parnell. Unlike Slime Boy, where I can see why people like him but don't entirely connect, I actually do like Parnell for the most part. His first appearance was definitely weak, but I will never forget him just jumping into the pit for no reason. I thought he just wanted out of the show that bad. I know I did. But no, he did it because he doesn't believe in Oblivion. High Guardian Spice could have been that show. It could have been the room of animation, packed to the brim with moments like that.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
But no, it's this show. This show that isn't just ugly in animation, it's ugly in its manifestation. And this is where my goodwill really does start to evaporate. It's been a while since a single episode has pissed me off this much, and I think I made it clear why. I can go on ranting and raving about how bad this episode is, but I think there really is only one way that I can put it. Episode 6 of High Guardian Spice is the exact thing that the entire internet thought the show was going to be when that first trailer hit the scene. Do better.